Black women are responsible for making sure a sexual predator didn't take the Senate seat in Alabama. Black women are responsible for Stacey Abrams' unexpected rise to being so close to becoming the first Black woman governor ever. Historically, Black women have fought with their tears, their resilience, their strife, stress, and addictions for a country that could care less, for a country that so obviously takes advantage and disrespects them. Despite this, Black women continue to stand on the front lines in the battle to live in a true democratic society. So how do we do that? We'll find out in this episode as we follow Hillary Holley, organizing director at Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight, an organization dedicated to promoting fair elections in Georgia and around the country by encouraging voter participation in elections and educating voters about elections and their voting rights. Black women continue to do the work to create the world they want to see. Why did you choose this line of work? Like, what inspired you?
I grew up in Gwinnett County. I grew up in a very diverse neighborhood. So I grew up with Colombians, Nigerians, Muslims, Mexicans. We were all like literally on the same 3 streets.
Wow.
And when I was younger, Democrats who supposedly are, are more typically for diversity and whatnot, they never came to our neighborhood. Like, I had never been canvassed before. My phone, like our home phone had never been phone banked. Like, we never had people, hi, I'm so-and-so running for this office. I hope you can vote for me. That never happened. So in my mind, I felt very ignored. I felt that our community was very ignored. And so one reason why I decided to join this team is because Stacey Abrams and her team decided to get rid of that approach and bring everybody in. And that was the first time the state of Georgia had really seen something like that and actually do it rather than say they're doing it. After learning and seeing the system try to work against that, so when they saw that we were doing outreach to neighborhoods that looked more like mine and trying to shut it down by putting in voter suppression tactics and whatnot, that's what made me want to stay in the fight. From an activism side, it started a lot earlier. I was in college when the Black Lives Matter movement really kicked off. So I think I'm what most people consider a millennial that saw what was going on social media. But it wasn't the first time I saw it. So like I said, I went to a majority Black school. So I remember one day I was at lunch and a lot of Black boys at my table had scratches all over their faces. And I was like, yo, CJ, someone's like, what happened? And they're like, oh, we were playing with a BB gun down by Rhodes Jordan Park and somebody called the cops on us. And the police came and they handcuffed them, threw them to the ground, smashed their faces into the street and was like, oh, you niggers think you can just do whatever you want. I'll kill you, wake up in the morning and eat my cereal. And you could see the trauma on my friends' faces telling me this. So I always knew stuff like that happens. But then when you see it happening all over the country and then you see people being like, this is enough, that kind of motivated me to be like, yeah, I've seen that.
Right.
Luckily, I've never been a victim of it. I'm light skinned, I'm curly hair. People have no idea what I am, right? But at the end of the day, that's my community, those are my people.
Fair Fight Action engages in voter mobilization and education activities and advocates for progressive issues. In addition, Fair Fight Action has mounted significant programs to combat voter suppression in Georgia and nationally. Today, I am headed to the Democracy Warrior Summit in Macon, Georgia to learn more about their programs in real life and to speak to some of the attendees about how Fair Fight Action is helping them.
We are a diverse community and diverse country, and the people who are representing us in our cities should look like that. We should not have cities or towns that are 70% African American who have never had a Black mayor or a Black sheriff and an entire white school board, entire white city councils. That does not reflect the people. And I believe your representatives should reflect your people. So we need more Asian representatives, we need more female representatives, we need more openly gay representatives. It would be nice to get some representatives in a wheelchair or somebody that has cerebral palsy. I mean, everybody needs to be able to see themselves in the people who are representing them. And we're not really seeing that.
And what is it important for Black women to know when it comes to getting organized so that we can get a person that cares about us, right, in the White House? What do we need to know? What do we need to be doing?
Well, I feel like Black women are doing a lot already. So first off, we just need to acknowledge that. Yeah. We're doing a lot of the leading. We're doing a lot of the organizing. One thing that I've noticed that was very important to us in Georgia is making sure that when we're organizing Black people, that rural Black people exist. Black people don't just live in the urban areas. And I feel like Black people know that because there's Black people in the rural areas, but sometimes I feel like with organizing, we tend to think like, oh, let's host something in a major city. But if so let's say if someone's coming to Georgia and they're like, oh, we're gonna host a major organizing event in Atlanta, that's great, but how are we gonna make sure that people from Southwest Georgia and like Lowndes County can get to that organizing summit? Because without them, you're not actually gonna be able to do real organizing in a state that's so large like Georgia. So one thing that I just always want to remind people, and I remind myself every day, like we need to make sure that we're being inclusive. It's regional diversity, right? And just making sure that everyone feels included, because when we go, my coworkers, when they go to South Georgia rural areas, the people are so happy because they've been ignored for so long, and they have to be a part of the change. Right. And the way to get there. So that's my advice. Yeah.
In a couple of places, none of the voting machines were working. Wow. And then we called headquarters and we said, why aren't you getting voting machines in places, where they're not working? And the answer was, we don't have any more.
This looked like something that somebody that was trying to save money and do it the cheap way sent to a whole bunch of people and wanted them to mail it somewhere as their vote. You don't have to vote because this is it. And so I knew we had a problem.
Unless we the people get up and do something, and I consider myself one of we the people and everybody here, it's not going to change.
That's right.
It's not going to change as long as we just look.
I think most people get confused when they think democracy. They think it's elected officials doing things, voting. But I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think it's, women organizing their blocks. I think it's guys organizing their churches and different areas of their community to voice their concerns, voice their opinions, and also create real and lasting change.
My issues as a poor Black woman wouldn't relate to the same issues as a wealthy white woman. So I see no need to vote strictly because of a certain party. I vote on issues, I don't vote on party. And issues that affect me and people who look like me, and when I say I am a Black, poor, female, lesbian, disabled, formerly incarcerated. So if your issues are not issues that affect me and my people, and it's not mass incarceration, decriminalizing marijuana, LGBT equality rights, poverty and equality distribution of wealth, those are not issues that I'm not going to support.
So listening to some of the voter suppression stories really reminds me of the importance of my work no matter where I am. Because I, as a Black woman millennial in Atlanta, is not thinking about the effects of someone in Cheatham County, a Black woman in Cheatham County. I'm not thinking about that when I'm sitting at home, right? So I really enjoy being here at the Democracy Warrior Summit, and I love the work that Stacey Abrams and her team are doing at Fair Fight Action, because it just shows the importance of elections and voting and the work that we need to be doing to get to a democratic government. What type of candidates do you think that we need? As we think about 2020, what type of candidate do you think that we need, the United States needs?
Well, there's two things, and I'm going to follow Leader Abrams' lead on this. Well, one, like, we need a candidate that understands that voting rights is under attack, point blank, period. Because it doesn't matter what you're talking about, what issues you're talking about, if people don't have the right to vote. If you're voting because you care about criminal justice reform, but you're not able to vote, we can't make those changes in criminal justice reform. If you're voting for education, if you're voting for the economy, fair jobs, whatever, if people can't vote, then those issues, we're never gonna have a chance at solving those issues. So that's number one. And then number two is making sure that you actually have a diverse coalition. So making sure that you are talking to every single person about what we need and what we want, rather than fighting back and be like, oh, this is about defeating Trump. No, it's not.
Right.
The reason why you want to beat him should be because the people deserve better.
Right.
For more episodes of The World Is Ours, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy.